Hello YouTube. I want to talk to you today a little bit about a guy named David Icke. I don't want to get too deep into everything about Icke. I just want to address one particular part of his philosophy, and that is the part that sounds absolutely nutty. If you're not familiar with Icke, you're going to have to do your own research. I think probably by now everyone to some extent is. But I just want to make some analogies and give my own thoughts and some theories about what Icke's all about with this reptilian thing. I want you to imagine that you've been taking care of your elderly grandmother who suffers from dementia for 10 years. And for 10 years, she's been out of her mind. Nothing comes out of her mouth except the ravings and rantings of a lunatic. And then one day, on one occasion, she utters the most profound statement. I have no idea what the statement might be, but the most profound and intelligent, enlightening statement that any human being in the history of humanity has ever uttered. Now, does that mean that one should conclude from this one aberrant behavior, this one-time fluke, that Grandma has suddenly recovered from her dementia and regained her sanity, and that, in fact, all of her former rantings and ravings and all of her future ranting and ravings should be interpreted as being some sort of crypto science, some sort of unrevealed, mysterious, and important revelation? No, of course not. It doesn't matter if Grandma comes up with something quite sane one day. She's still crazy, because you have to judge things by their pattern, and you can only attribute it, this one thing that Grandma has done or said, as an aberrant behavior, her sanity, or appearance of it, versus the long history of her insanity. Okay, well, Icke's like that, but the opposite. Anyone who pays any attention to Icke realizes that apart from his own personal, spiritual, unprovable opinions, apart from that, everything else that he has to say on politics, history, and his sort of global worldview makes a kind of very creepy sense, and he backs it up with thorough research and knowledge. So what we've got with Icke and his reptilian thing is this strange situation where you've got this person who presents to be, historically, over his lifetime, very intelligent, very informed, very well researched, and very intellectual, very intelligent. And then he comes at you and hits you in the face with this crazy reptilian shit, and then smoothly segues back into something that sounds perfectly sane. Well, does that mean that we thereby have to conclude that all of the comparatively brilliant things that he has to say on virtually every other subject that he addresses then has to be looked at through the lens of his insanity, because everything is discredited by this insane reptile idea? Well, no, and I have two theories. I'm not going to tell you which one I believe, but I think they're reasonable alternatives to what exactly Icke is trying to say, what he's trying to communicate, or maybe just a difference of viewpoint or opinion from what might be considered mainstream. Now, the first of these I'm going to offer is, what is it that you mean when you talk about alien or non-human intelligent life? There's as big a difference when a person says alien. If you just have that word to work with, you don't know what they mean. There's a big difference between the phrase illegal alien and alien. Everybody understands the difference, like night and day. One is provable, understandable, very much anchored in reality. The other is maybe real, but we don't have anything other than just the assumption by the numbers of intelligent life elsewhere in the universe. we don't have any sort of solid proof, and therefore can't make any conclusions of it. Okay, but in the broadest sense and definition of alien, it is only an intelligence or sentient life form other than human, not native to planet Earth. Now, if you understand some of Icke's views on the nature of the universe, matter and energy, same thing. Obviously, this is physics, very basic physics. You know, he sees humans and all physical life forms as kind of a low reverberation of matter, space, time, whatever. It's the same stuff. Material existence exists because it's operating at a lower frequency level, whereas there might in fact be intelligences of a higher frequency level, i.e. non-material intelligence, sentience, it's non-human. So, I guess what I'm getting at here is when Icke says high frequency vibrating immaterial creatures from the planet Draco constellation, whatever, consider that his idea of an alien intelligence and species might in fact be more closely related to what some of you might call and believe or disbelieve in entities more akin to the nature of what we might historically or mythologically call angels and demons. We're talking about creatures, you know, they're not masquerading as humans, so to speak, in so much as instead they are possessing them. So this might be the kind of intelligent alien awareness that Icke's talking about. I think if you consider the term alien and give it a very broad brush understanding, you'll see that there's not very much difference between a materialist conception of little green men, or scaly reptilian ones, versus in the material world, versus an understanding of an immaterial or non-material creature of more of a spiritual realm. They both fit the bill and definition of alien, non-human, non-native to Earth, intelligent, sentient life forms with an agenda. Now, the other explanation is more curious, and I think the implications of it are much weirder than even the alien business. And if you actually make it through to this point in the video, I'm going to include a clip about Icke from a documentary done by him that will kind of show a little bit more about what I'm talking about. And that is, recently it's been suggested that Icke is not in fact talking about any sort of literal alien life forms. He's actually talking about a certain racial human group, something very much more real than what it is that he's exactly saying. He's speaking in code, in other words. He's trying to transmit to the people he's talking to something that he can't come out in the open and say. Now, Icke vehemently denies this. He maintains that he is in fact speaking of what he says he's speaking about. But I think it's interesting that take note the implications of this theory and how it actually operates in the real world. Now, when you have to understand, Icke comes out and specifically says 12-foot tall lizards that drink human blood, that are totally foreign and alien in mentality to human beings, that are sinister and malicious in every way, and a certain ethnic group, actually not Icke, but an ethnic group, based on what Icke has said, has taken offense because they think that he's talking about them. Now, I think this is curious and disturbing in a couple of ways. The first of which is, I particularly find it very creepy that they would take offense to something that most sane people on the surface of it would think sounds like nonsense. I mean, it's tantamount to someone coming up and saying, yes, it's actually albino elephant people who want to rule the galaxy or rule the world and have come from this alien, and then, you know, the one right-winger in the corner with a white hood on stands up and says, "Why are you talking about white people?" The implication is, of course, why are you taking offense? Is there something that you see in yourself that you yourself are drawing a correlation between what this person is saying and how you view yourself? Well, I think you get the idea. I didn't think the reptilian thing of Ike could get any stranger. But when I heard about this, it did.
But now there's some real trouble brewing for David. Something that might even destroy him. This is the New York headquarters of the Anti-Defamation League, the world's most powerful Jewish defense organization. The ADL's job is to identify and expose anti-Semites.
Tell me what you know about David Icke.
I know that he about yearly makes a tour of the United States. He is a New Age guru. And unfortunately, his philosophy is tainted with anti-Semitism.
The Anti-Defamation League believe, although they're not entirely certain, that when David Icke says 12-foot lizards secretly rule the world, he's using code. And what he really means is that Jews secretly rule the world.
If David Icke is telling people that 12-foot lizards equal Jews, it would make me feel very much as if I had something to worry about if David Icke came to town, if he believes that his 12-foot lizards are Jews.
The question is, does he believe that? It's hard
that's
to know
that's a very good question. If he just believes that they're 12-foot lizards, they're probably reason to be concerned about his health. If he believes that they're 12-foot lizards who represent Jews, there's reason to be concerned for the health of the Jewish community.
Knowing what I do about David's past, my guess is that when he says giant lizards secretly rule the world, he really does mean lizards. But I could be wrong. These are old anti-Semitic cartoons from Eastern Europe, and there is something lizardy about the way the Jews are portrayed, encircling and enslaving the world. Is this a coincidence?
It does open up a whole can of worms about code words.
The Anti-Defamation League is really concerned about code words.
David's line of defense is clear. When he says lizards, he really is referring to lizards.
There is a tribe of people interbreeding which do not relate to any Earth race. It's not the Jews, it's not there's anything. Just look at me. This is not a Jewish plot. This is not a plot on the world by Jewish people.
Well, the thing is, when you say this is not a Jewish plot, some people think that's a metaphor for you saying it's a Jewish plot.
Are you going to laugh first or me? Who's disappearing up their arse, me or you?
You can't win this. This is part of the ludicrous attitude.
This is just total friggin' nonsense.
David Icke will put his hand to his heart and say, I am not an anti-Semite, I have the greatest respect for the Jewish people, but the Jewish hierarchy, like Muslim hierarchy, the Christian hierarchy, and so on, they're 12-foot lizards.
Right.
Does that make him an anti-Semite?
I think it does. I think it does. I mean, the fact is that that's a favorite way of dealing with anti-Semitism. I only dislike these Jews. I don't dislike all Jews. I just dislike these Jews. And somehow these Jews are the absolute epitome of what being Jewish means.
The more time I spend with David, the more I'm convinced that when he says lizards, he means lizards.